Welcome back to another episode of Remember the Great Sports, sharing my collection. This video is going to be a little bit unique, so I ask you to kind of bear with me. This isn't particularly a sports related collection video. This is kind of a sports / autograph / vinyl, heavy metal, rock and roll show off collection. So what I'm trying to say is I'm going to show off my vinyl record collection. I'm going to break it down into 3 parts. I'm first going to share with you the sports albums that I have. I'm going to show you just the regular, vinyl records that I have collected over the years. And then I'm going to show you the autographs on the vinyl records and other, music memorabilia that I've collected throughout the years. So if you don't have much interest in the sports part, if you don't have much interest in the non-autographs, you don't care about the autographs, I am going to put quick links down here at the bottom in the description so you can jump ahead to watch whatever section you want to watch. I, of course, want you to watch the whole video, but if you, have a preference, you can quick jump, maybe come back later and watch the other part, whatever. So we're going to jump right into this, and the first albums I'm going to share with you, I'm not going to talk much about this because I've already shown this in another video, is Hakeem the Dream singing his album from circa 1984, I believe. And I will put a link up in up here in the corner and down in the description at the end of the video where I talk more about this record, as I only paid $1 for this, way back when, so I'm not going to spend too much time on talking about that record because I already have. So the next one I'm going to share with you, one more thing I do want to point out. I'm going to have to probably adjust the camera quite a bit to get this stuff on video for you guys. So let me zoom out a tad bit more because these albums are kind of hard to see. One thing I do want to point out is I am not a collector of vinyl or albums or anything like that for the resale value, meaning typically if I can find something for $1, under $5, I think it's cool, or if I think I can get it autographed, I might purchase it. So that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to buying records. I'm not necessarily buying these to collect them, but I've collected them, if you get what I'm saying. Meaning, I'm not worried about condition. I know that's a huge thing when it comes to records, condition of the record, and etc. So, with that being said, my father actually found this one for me, and he paid $1 for it. And this is none other than Hall of Fame football player Terry Bradshaw singing "Until You" in his country music debut. So, I don't know much about this. I've never listened to it. But here's Terry Bradshaw, which I would assume with his wife at the time. And this is, him singing an album. And this is, again, a unique sports item that, how often do you see this thing? And if I ever had a chance to see Mr. Bradshaw, I'm going to ask him to autograph it and see what he gets out of that. But I've never had a chance to do that. So, Terry Bradshaw on his debut album, Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Famer. This next one, pretty sentimental. Looks like I got a $6 thing on the back of here. I need to get a record sleeve for this. But this is the 1967 Cardinals World Series Championship, narrated by Jack Buck and Harry Carey. So that's another sports album that I found this at an antique mall. And there's the back. Talks about Harry Carey and Jack Buck. And this is, I paid $6 for it. So a little bit over my $5 threshold, but this is, a cool LP that I'd never seen before, and the price was right. Again, if I ever happen to see somebody, off this team, I might ask him to sign it. You just never know. Haven't had that opportunity yet, though. So, 1967 Cardinals championship record. Maybe I'll hook that up sometime and play it back for you guys on my channel on a separate video. Alright, so I'm going to share these with you. Not to cause too much controversy, but I'm going to add a small segment to this, and this is comedy albums. And I bought these many years ago for $2 a piece, thinking that I might have the opportunity to get them autographed. And with his recent legal issues and etc., my window of opportunity ever to get this autograph is probably gone. And you'll see what I mean when I show it to you. And that is Mr. Bill Cosby on one of his comedy records. Now again, I'm not going to debate on what he did or what he didn't do, you know, what happened. I don't want to talk about his legal stuff in my video. I bought these probably about 10 years ago, maybe hoping that I might catch them at a show. When I was in college, and I actually have a second album here too. When I was in college, he actually, as a lot of you probably know, he used to tour a lot of the college universities and perform. Well, while I was in college, he actually came to my university, and I had a conflict. I couldn't make it. I didn't have enough money. I had to work, whatever the reason was. So I never got a chance to go to my alma mater to see him perform. So that's probably why I bought these, was, you know, 10, 15 years ago, I thought I might go to that show, and I picked these two albums up to try to get signed, and I just never got to that place to get them signed. So, like I said, don't want to talk about, you know, the legal issues that are going on with him. I just thought I'd share those because they are in my collection. Now this guy I really enjoy, and I actually have this vinyl along with a couple CDs of his that I picked up, and that is none other than George Carlin. And if you look down here in the corner, it has the warning label. And I don't know if that makes it worth more or worth less or whatever, but it's printed right on there. And if you can kind of see what it says there, I'm not going to read it to you. 7 words you can never say on television. So, Mr. Carlin was a very popular comedian back in the 70s, early 80s, even through the 90s. And he was kind of one of the first shock comedians, meaning he would use vulgarities during his performance and talk about some of that taboo stuff. And, you know, he had a lot of his earlier works, you know, were banned and all kinds of stuff from being played. So, pretty cool to have this record. I did not live during the time period that this record was popular, so maybe there's some viewers out there that can enlighten me on this. In 1972, it looks like. But in 1972, from what I understand, watching the history of comedy about George Carlin, this was a very controversial record. So maybe there can be some older viewers that can say, yep, I remember when that record was in the news and how you had to go behind the counter to find it at the record store. So I saw it for like $1, so I thought for $1, why not? So moving on from the comedy, we're going to jump right into my collection of regular vinyl. This is not the autographs. We will get to them in a second. But one thing I want to point out is Van Halen is one of my favorite bands of all time. This is not an album, but it's like a album book, I guess you would say, a tour thing with all the Van Halen. And this is David Lee Roth Van Halen, not Sammy. But I think I paid a whole whop. Yeah, there's Lee Roth right there. I think I paid a whole $1 for that album. So I just wanted to share that with you because I keep that with my records. But we're not going to talk about that right now. So one of the first, I'll just put them in order here. I don't really have an order. But I picked these up in hopes for the same reason to get autographed. The best of Chuck Berry. And if you can see the names of the songs on the album here, these are like his best hits ever. And here is another Chuck Berry album that I picked up for a few bucks. But many of you may not have known Chuck was from the St. Louis area. I bought these with the intention of maybe trying to get him signed, and he obviously has passed away, and I didn't get him autographed. But again, I had an opportunity to see him, and I just didn't get a chance to get him signed before he passed away. But I do have an album that I am going to share, so I will get to that in a little bit. So I'm going to go through these kind of quick and not tell you the background on all of them, because it's going to make this video super long. But one of my favorite TV shows ever, Miami Vice, the soundtrack. If I ever get a chance to see anybody off of the show, this is one I'm going to ask him to sign them. And this is a big hit from Miami Vice, actually, Go Insane. As you can see, I got it for $1. And that's on an episode of Miami Vice, one of my favorite episodes. I believe it's entitled The Great McCarthy. So if you YouTube viewers, like Miami Vice, you're interested, just type in The Great McCarthy, Miami Vice, and you'll see this song featured in it. So not going to talk too much about that. Bump the camera there. Lindsey Buckingham, as you know, part of Fleetwood Mac, also sings Holiday Road, National Lampoons. Back on the Van Halen thing, here's David Lee Roth's solo album. So, show that. Here is a Sammy Hagar album, which I thought if I ever saw him, this would be perfect for an autograph. Here is another Sammy Hagar. Yeah, this is a real old one. It's like one of his first albums, I think. Again, I don't know my history of my albums, but there's Sammy Hagar again. Alright, sorry about that. I had to cut there. The phone rang. So, continuing on, this is HSAS, which is Hagar, Schoen, Aronson, and Shreve. This is a small side project that Sammy Hagar did with a member of Journey back in the 80s. You don't see this album too often. So I picked that up for like $1. Like I said, if I ever saw Sammy Hagar, this would be the stuff that I'd ask him to sign. Now this next one, just to prove that I'm an 80s fan, this is actually kind of my wife and my album, but this album was made popular by the recent movie Deadpool. I almost said Daredevil, sorry about that. But in the movie Deadpool, this is featured, and that is a $1 purchase for a sealed version of Wham! Make It Big. Approximately $1 for one of the most iconic records of the 80s. So again, I'm leaving it sealed because, there might be collectible value to that, but, I have this, I have George Michael and Wham's music on a CD, so I have no need to open that. The same can go with this. This isn't sealed, but there's a copy of Van Halen 2. And this is a pretty cool album with the artwork. There's not any artwork inside, as some of them. Oh, actually, there is. I pull this out. Again, I don't want to go through all this stuff, but here's the insert for Van Halen. Record sleeve, I guess you would call it. So that's a pretty cool addition to the collection. Very iconic Van Halen album, by the way. But I also have it on CD. Here's another Van Halen album, Women and Children First. So that's another. This one's in really beat up shape, as you can see from the back. Really torn up, but again, I paid like $1 for it. This, I kind of forgot I had, is a Star Wars album. You know, so the Star Wars fans out there, this is almost something that, you know, you would want in your collection. You know, again, paid like $1 for it. And again, I don't know if these are worth anything or not. Iconic record, Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. I've always loved the cover art on this. And this is just like, you know, this is totally, you know, metal. I mean, I bought this more for the artwork than I did the album. One of the most iconic albums ever. There's Meat on the back. There he is. This one's my wife's, one of her favorite movies, and that is the soundtrack of Flashdance. What a feeling, right? So I should have showed that probably with, yeah, What a Feeling, first one on there. But this is, like I said, my wife's addition to the collection. And I've got, this is with my albums, and this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. And this is what you call a Laserdisc, which is kind of the precursor between DVDs and VHS, and a Lost Boys Laserdisc. And I bought this for $3, and that was with the intention, if I ever saw any of these people in the movie, you know, there's a perfect spot right here on the side for them all to sign. So maybe one day get Kiefer Sutherland or Jason Patrick or, you know, Corey Feldman. Corey Haim's no longer with us, but if I ever get an opportunity for an autograph, this is what I'm going to ask him to sign. So that's just randomly in there because it's the size of a record.